So
Okay.
what's up, everybody? I'm here with Coach Q, myself, Jaja Richards, and we just wanted to talk to you guys. Normally in our program, we do every week we discuss a theme. It'd be a week every week that we apply that theme as it relates to what we're teaching on the court. Obviously, right now we cannot teach on the court, but we still feel it's really important to get that life lesson. So I want to introduce Coach Q and let him tell you a little bit about himself and what he does before we get going.
So hi guys, I'm Coach Q. I work over in Polk County as well as I help out with the All Stars Are Bright program. I've been with Jaja for the last 4 years, and during this time, this is a really, really tough time for everybody. And so as a mental health facilitator over in Polk County, what I've been tasked with is doing a wellness check for the kids that I be with on a regular basis, as well as like just the schools that I work at. So I'll potentially be calling almost every kid that's on my caseload. If not, I'll be doing some type of email stuff that'll be going out. I've even talked to my supervisor about mailing stuff out. And so whatever it is that it takes for us to be able to make contact with our kids and our parents system during this time, that's what I'll be doing, as well as being able to do these video chats and be able to still keep up with the 8 weeks and the themes that we have set up for in the next up and coming few weeks. And so really looking forward to this. This is one of the first times we get to use technology in this way in terms of the program. So it's going to be interesting to see how things kind of roll out. So, just stick with us and keep an open mind and an open heart about what's taking place. And let's learn as much as possible together.
Well, hopefully we don't have to be on this technology for all 8 weeks and we get to get back on the court before. And I made a vow. I said, I'm not going to shave until we get back on the court and play some basketball. And it's only been a few days and my son is already messing with me and saying itchy beard and you got white hair growing, So I don't know if I could go a whole 8 weeks. I don't know if he's going to let me go a whole 8 weeks, but I said, you know what? Not shaving until we get there. But yeah, so we're here. Normally week one would be about respect. We'd be discussing the rules of the game, going over the rules with the kids and talking to them about respect. So we're not going to talk about the rules of the game, but we are going to talk about these new rules that we are now living under in society. And how do you feel about that? Q, how do you feel about everything that has been rolled out? And is this something that we need to respect, or is this something where our rights are being, trampled on, or do we need to fall in line and respect these new rules,
I definitely believe that we need to respect these rules and start to take this a little bit more seriously. There are a lot of people that are being affected by this, and a lot of people are dying. And I know that, it may not seem like it's touching each individual person that we're trying to touch right now through this message, but the level of respect should be at its utmost in the forefront of people's minds, because all it takes is one opportunity for you not to respect one of the rules that they're implementing, and then all of a sudden now it touches your life and it touches you and affects you and your family in a different way. So with that being said, this level of respect, it doesn't just go for your neighbor, your family members, those that are in your household. This is going for everybody, so that washing your hands and practicing cleanliness, we need to start to respect those things a little bit more so now than ever, because, we take those things for granted. Some people don't wash their hands after using the bathroom. Some people don't wash their hands after, touching themselves, digging up their nose or whatever. And so being able to know that, like, you as an individual holds a level of autonomy, it needs to be said that you need to respect yourself as well as those that are around you. I think this is a perfect opportunity. Well, maybe not a perfect opportunity, but this is a huge opportunity for us to learn how to respect ourselves again in certain ways that we probably don't do on a regular basis. And
What,
one of
what,
those,
what do you mean by that in terms of respecting ourselves? What do you mean by that?
by making sure that we take every opportunity to make sure that we are practicing cleanliness to the utmost. And I think if we can start to do that from this experience, I think it'll certainly carry over when we go into getting back on the court, and when we go into,
When life gets back to normal, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely one of the lasting effects of, is that hopefully we'll see people practicing better hygiene, something that we always, used to teach, try to implement to kids all the time: wash your hands, brush your teeth, all of this. But I think this is now when they realize that, hey, people are dying because you're not washing your hands, you're not covering your mouth when you're sneezing. I think that's definitely something. But, outside of the rules of, and I guess, those are more kind of like guidelines, like, hey, wash your hands, practice good hygiene. Those are more guidelines. Talking about like the rules now that mayors of Orange County, Osceola County have put into effect starting tonight. This is Thursday, March 26th. So going into effect tonight. There was already a curfew put in effect a while ago. Now there's a stay-at-home order put in effect. So looking at those rules, do you feel, what's your viewpoint on should us respecting those rules? Do you feel like that is too much? Now they're telling people you can't go out at night, or saying, hey, you can only, you can't leave your home unless it's for essential business. Is that, looking at this new norm for at least the next couple of weeks, respecting those rules? I mean, this is now telling people where they can go, when they can go, and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on that?
For me, I really have kind of thought about this from at least the opinions that I can think of, and this is getting information and feedback from other people that I've talked to in my family. Like, I think that this is something that we need to really take precedent on and really follow these types of rules. I don't think that this is like treading a whole lot on our civil liberties, but I can understand that some people work at night. Some people got to pay the bills. Some people got to do what they got to do in terms of being able to provide for their families. I get that 100%. But for those of us who just don't want to stay in the house because you start to feel claustrophobic, it's nothing to walk around your house or stay within the vicinity. But when you start to travel for no reason, you're putting yourself in danger and you're putting others in danger. And I think we really need to respect that. That is just one of the rules that we're not going to have to live our lives by forever, exactly, but for this certain amount of time. And so keeping that in mind, I think, helps.
And I think you hit it on the head right there, not forever, but temporarily. Like, so obviously, I would not want to live under a rule where I couldn't leave my house at night, or I couldn't leave during the day. You had to I was actually talking to Pastor Alex today, and he said he had to give letters to his employees that are deemed essential for the operation of the school in order for them to be able to travel during these next 2 weeks. So it's like, now you have to travel around with papers and stop and show them. And you may think that that is extreme, but I feel that if we take those steps now, we can get back to being normal. I honestly don't feel that we are doing enough. I feel like this is coming too late. I feel like it's, I was watching on the news the other day where they said anybody that's flying from the tri-state area has to self-quarantine for 14 days. But there's no measures in place to ensure that they're doing that.
Right.
I was talking to my guy, went to school with him. He's VP of Nike over in Asia, and he's telling me that any foreigner that comes into China, they are escorting them to their house, and a police officer is standing outside their door. They're even putting sensors on doors. That's how they're enforcing their quarantines. So, you talk about having a police officer outside your house, making sure you don't go anywhere. Now that, we may, talking like you're talking about civil liberties and everything, but I honestly, I don't think, when you watch on the news and you see tons of people at the beach or people out here doing this or whatever, I don't think that, at this point right now, we're not going to get control of it if we leave it up to people to do the right thing. I think that
Right.
these rules that are being put in place right now are extreme temporarily, but in an extreme time like this, we have to take extreme measures. And I want us to get back to life as normal as possible as soon as we can, but I do feel like we do definitely have to respect these rules and maybe even have to go a step further to really get this under control. I mean, China has 1 billion people. We don't even have half of that, and we already have more cases than they had, you know?
Part of that is because we don't, it's like you said, part of that is because we haven't really been enforcing these things. Over in China, they get to do things a little bit different. They've kind of, over in Asia and that part of the world, they've kind of gotten back to normalcy already.
A little
because
bit,
they've taken those extreme measures. Like, they're really extreme in terms of quarantining people and making sure that, people are safe. But granted, that's where it started. So maybe those extreme measures happened after it ran its course over there. I think we're going to start to get extreme after we get to a point where we feel like it's running its course. And I don't want us to get to that point, but that's what it feels like is happening right now, because so many people don't want to believe in what's coming out on TV. So many people don't want to believe what the government is saying. And I think we're absolutely right to skepticize with some of what they're saying, because they haven't been always truthful to us. I mean, 2020, hindsight only being 2020.
right.
If people are dying, I think we need to start abiding by, some of these things, even though they make us uncomfortable. They're making us uncomfortable for temporary measures, but do we want it to be uncomfortable now for this short duration of time, or do we want it to be uncomfortable for the next 5 to 10 years? So I don't think people are looking at it from that sense. So for myself, I know I've talked to Summer a number of times, talked to my wife about this a number of times, and we both, like, she wanted to go to, Lowe's, and I'm like, for what? That could wait. we don't need to leave the house if we don't need to leave the house. Everything that we need right now, we got it. So we're okay. And if we need to leave the house and it's an absolute emergency, we need to take the right precautions before leaving the house and when we return back to the house. So we're not leaving and bringing whatever it is that's out there back to the house. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out how to disinfect certain things. We've cleaned the entire house, for the most part. We've gone room by room. We've moved everything. We done cleaned everything, disinfected it. We're going room by room. We got the last guest bathroom is the last thing that we have to clean. But other than that, those are the steps that we're taking too. And when we go outside, we see our neighbors and stuff outside. We stay 6 feet away from them. We talk to them. We have our conversations. And then, we go back in our house and wash our hands and, so we are following those precautions, but it's strange to not know whether or not everybody else is following it too.
And I think that's what you said earlier about, you said to everybody, respect yourself, and that goes back to the basic rule of when we talk to the kids is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, and we have to act like, staying at 6 feet distance is acting like what they say is act like everybody's sick, so, let's respect that, okay, well, I might be sick, so I'm not going to go close to this person because I don't want to infect them, or I don't want to, I don't want that person. And it's not, it's not looking bad or looking down on any person, but it's just let's have respect for everybody that, we're going to practice this social distancing and maintain this distance and do what we can so that, we can get over this, So I think it's very important. I think, this is, in talking about this rule of respect, and if any parents or kids, you guys are watching this video, I really hope you guys take this to heart. And one of these themes that we have talked on, program after program of having respect, I think that, it's very important for you guys to really take this to heart now. And, whether you agree with, the politician or not, whether you voted for him, whether you like him or not, I think it's very important for us to all come together in this time and follow these rules and respect these rules, just like on the basketball court. You may not like the referee, you may not agree with the referee's call, but that's the authority on the court, and we need to respect it, during the game. And in this game of life right now, the authority has put down these mandates of, stay at home, social distancing, and I think it's very, very important that we respect that right now in order to get through where we're going,
I agree. There's only going to be you know, a limited amount of time that we're playing this long-term game. This is a marathon. And if you plan on being a part of this marathon for a while, then your best objective is to follow these rules. Because if not, then it's going to be a sprint.
Yep.
And this is not something that I'm trying to outrun. And what makes it worse, I think, is that people don't really respect it because it's the unknown, right? It's invisible. There's many people that could be carriers right now and not have any symptoms and not know. And all it takes is for them to sneeze or whatever, and next thing you know, now you're a carrier. And now you're sick, and you don't until you have symptoms or until you get tested. And I think that's the scariest thing right now, is because they're starting to put up these pop-up testing sites and people are getting tested, and now the numbers are going through the roof.
Yep.
Like, they didn't expect this many people to have it until these test centers started popping up. And now that these test centers are popping up, now it's, oh, okay, we don't have enough equipment. Okay, well, that should be setting off bells and whistles in everybody's head. If we don't have enough equipment to test people, there's no telling who has it. So following these precautions is a necessary evil. We need to follow these things so that way, if you're sick, you quarantine off for 14 days and maybe your blood type helps you be able to kick it. But until then, there's no telling who has it, who's traveled where, because now people don't want to tell you where they travel to and from.
That's something else. I mean, it's, you know, with the school district, they were saying, you know, if you went on a cruise anywhere, then you have to self-quarantine and you have to take 14 days. You have to self-quarantine for 14 days and use your sick leave for that. Who's going to voluntarily take their own sick leave? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be pessimistic. I always try to be positive, but I don't see people, you know, voluntarily staying home, missing work, losing pay for it. I don't see it happening. I don't see that happening. But that's where, you know, I hope that our government could do more and step up and say, okay, but also, and this will go into what we talk about too. It's also, you know, responsibility. And that's the second theme that we'll talk about next week, but also it comes into responsibility of people that, hey, don't travel right now because, don't, if you're going to have to quarantine, then be responsible and not travel right now so we don't have to come back and go through that, you know?
So I'm glad you said that because my homeboy just left us not too long ago. He flew back to Boston. He came out here, Jermaine, he's going to be a part of the wedding, flew down here a week ago, right? My man just went back, and I was telling him when I was dropping him off, because that was the reason why I was going to Orlando, to drop him off at the airport.
Okay. I thought you were traveling, and I'm like, man, no. Hey, don't do it. Why are you traveling?
Nah. I was dropping him off, right? So as I'm dropping him off, I'm like, yo, have you been watching the news about what's going on down here? Because, you know, when you live in your state, there's certain things, you're only privy to information that's to your region unless you're searching for other information, right? So I just came back from Panama City 2 weeks ago when the virus actually was like being talked about and when things were getting full blown. Like, I was in Panama City, and I think that being in Panama City opened my eyes to a lot of things. One, they got hit by the hurricane 2 years ago, and they still are dealing with that devastation. And we down here in Central Florida have no idea because we're not living up there. And unless you have somebody that lives up there that's telling you what's going on over there, you're not going to know. So I had to travel up there 6 hours to go and help out a school district dealing with mental health issues and disaster recovery. So I went to go get trained on trauma-informed care to go up there. And then that's when I find out that spreading and, you know, all of these measures are supposed to be taking place. So I'm constantly in contact with my wife, and while I'm up there, I'm just thinking like, man, like, this is crazy how we don't know what's taking place in Panama City. Like, nobody really knows. 75% of that area is renters. 25% of those people own homes. There's people up there with no homes. There's kids that I serviced, and those kids that I helped, and families that I helped when I was out there for only 7 days. Help them find some type of relief during that disaster. And they're 18 months removed from that hurricane. Like, that to me was incredible. So then I tell my boy, I'm like, hey, my man, like, you recognize that TSA have been passing this friggin' virus around, and he didn't even know.
Right.
So I'm telling him, I'm like, yo, be careful when you go through this TSA And so we bought a bunch of gloves and stuff. So we bought some stuff, and I gave it to him right before he left. And I was like, yo, be careful. So he gets back home. He calls me. He's like, Q, you'll never guess what happened to me. He's like, yo, the TSA guy is like patting me down or whatever as I go through. He's like, yo, the guy took my gloves. I told him, I said, if you're going to take my gloves, you need to give me some other ones. So I guess after they pat him down, the dude went over to a supervisor to ask for some gloves, but he never changed his gloves. So he's touching random people throughout the course of his shift and never once changing his glove. And that's how I think these guys are getting it, because there's no telling who they're touching and where they're coming from.
And spreading it to other people.
Right. So when he told me that, I was like, yo, that's crazy. So that to me is like just some people either being careless, supervisors not really paying attention to this type of detail, or maybe it's just they don't know what they don't know. Maybe they're not thinking in terms of being able to understand, like, yo, if I touch somebody and they got it on their clothes or on their hands or on their, you know, whatever they're carrying, their luggage, if I touch them, I should be changing my gloves, or I should be sanitizing my gloves on a regular basis. But that, I don't know if that's not what their thinking is. But when he got home, that he told me that, and that just made me start thinking about like what we need to do for ourselves. Like, those guys are out there working, and I get it. But at the same time, are they taking the same level of precaution that they need to be taking? And if they're not, are they aware of it? Because it don't sound like they're aware of it. Yet we already have 4 or 5 TSA people from Orlando that have it. So,
yeah.
like,
I mean,
that's just another
that goes into like
to be thinking about.
Like what we were saying, you know, I want us to get on here, you know, weekly as we discuss those 8 themes. I know today was just kind of impromptu. I wanted to get on here today because of all of the orders that came out over the past couple of days to just talk about these new rules that we have to follow. But I'd like to do this like weekly, maybe every Sunday evening or something. You know, the next one, as we said, is talking about responsibility. It would be defense and responsibility, but obviously we could talk about, you know, responsibility on Sunday. But I just think, you know, you mentioned TSA, healthcare workers, you know, people that still have to go to those jobs, that have those essential jobs, they still have to perform, you know, police, fire, healthcare workers, even the people that are keeping the grocery stores open for us to shop. You know, we need to have, you know, a lot of respect for them that are out there putting themselves on in harm's way every day, interacting with the public, not knowing if the public is sick or not, you know, and they still have to interact with the public and do their job. So, you know, a lot of respect for them, you know. But
I hope that this changes.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I hope that this changes for better. You know what I mean? Not for this duration of time. You know, like this whole consciousness and this level of awareness and this ability for us to be able to really talk to our neighbors. I hope that doesn't change after this is all resolved. Like, I really do hope we carry this level of respect for each other further into the future, rather than just only dealing with it for this, you know, epidemic. And that scares me the most, because time we're at like war with somebody, or anytime there's major dysfunction in our country, it's the only time that we're together on something. And so I'm hoping that this is going to bring us together forever, not just for this short amount of time. And then we go back to hating each other, and we go back to, you know, just being the same dysfunctional type of society that we've had. So hopefully this is going to put us on the right track in terms of being able to really care for our neighbor, care for our elderly, care for each other, and care for ourselves.
Those are some good words to close on, Q. Some good closing thoughts. I definitely hope that that's one of the lasting effects of this is like, just like you said, for us to respect and care for each other more. So, you know, thank you for joining, Q, and giving your insight. Hopefully, you and you know, bring Summer on. You know, we'll keep that time as 8:30. We'll try to do that like every maybe Sunday evening at 8:30. And have Summer join, and you know, next week the next topic will be responsibility. You know, we can talk about our responsibilities during this time, and get feedback from people during the week. So, but I appreciate you too, man. Any other closing words, or good?
I appreciate you too, man. Be safe. wash your hands.
Gonna do. I haven't been touching anything, so I'm good right here in the house. But I'm always gonna wash them. Hey, that's one thing I'm telling my son. I'm like, now you see why Daddy was saying wash your hands all the time, sanitize your hands all the time. So that's if you can try to find a silver lining in anything, is my son now believes that hey, Daddy was right when he was always saying wash your hands. You know?
Nice.
All right,
man.
I'll talk to you. Thanks you.
All right.
Later, fellas.
All right.
Take it easy.